Okay, we are recording. Everybody see the screen okay?
Yep.
Navigation's working. So first thing we're going to start out with, just an update for those of you that have not heard yet. The IHS hospital that is in town, just a few blocks away from the hospital here, is closing their inpatient unit starting officially yesterday, 5/15. They're anticipating this closure is going to be lasting for at least the next 3 to 6 months. During this time period, they reached out to our facility, contacted us, and effectively said, hey, would you guys be willing to work with us on being able to take patients that are seen in our emergency department needing admission? Can we get them direct admitted over to your facility instead of trying to transfer them out of the area to either other IHS facilities or to non-IHS related facilities? So the administrative team here spoke closely with the administrative team over at their facility. We're anticipating, very few admissions coming over from their facility. They average a daily census of 2 over in their inpatient unit. So we're not anticipating there to be a massive influx of patients. But as we know, going into the summer season, every little bit helps. So there's a couple things that we've done. There are documents that are being basically a one pager piece of paper that's sitting up at the ward clerk station to give advisement on the admission process, direct admission process for these patients. It's very simply laid out. This was put together by Skylar in concert with speaking with our staff that was on the day that she was working on the document, as well as with the registration team. This is just to kind of streamline the process for when we're getting these patients admitted. Charge nurses have been educated and brought up to speed on the contents of that document. So the key thing is that when we get that call from IHS emergency department for that admission, we want to make sure we're utilizing that form until we get this down pat. It's not going to really be any different than the direct admissions we've taken from their facility in the past. We'll get all the necessary information from them first, hand that off to the hospitalist. The hospitalist will do the review, and then if they accept the patient, then that patient will be transported over here. Standard process, think of it the opposite of similar to when we do transfers out, right? You're typically giving report before you send that patient, so they'll be giving report to the nurse before that patient comes our direction. We'll have a relatively decent heads up when that patient's coming our way. Majority of these transports are going to be via ambulance, so they're going to be coming directly over, probably with AMR or something to that effect, over to our facility. They'll go through a pre-registration process whereby we will be having them fax over effectively all their records and everything, including a face sheet and insurance information. So we'll provide that over to the registration team. They'll get them pre-registered. They'll bring the patients in, take them directly to a room, and registration will come and finish up that registration in the room at bedside. So the key here is, as the nurse for the patient, we're wanting to stay on top of our hospitalists to make sure that we're getting those orders for those patients. So that way when they arrive, we're good to go and we have what we need. If you guys run into any challenges, please use your normal pathways, speak to your charge nurses. And if things need to be escalated to myself, I have contact with the admin folks over at that facility, as well as our local admin, so we can get anybody that we need to, on a phone call to navigate through any issues that we may run into or come across as we're navigating this kind of new-ish process that we're going to be undergoing by taking these patients from their emergency department. So again, like I said, I'm not anticipating this to, influx our census by like 15 patients a day or even 10 patients a day. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if most days we don't see any admits from their facility. These will probably come in bunches of 1 or 2 when they do come in. So just a little bit of additional patient load that we'll be seeing through the summer. And then, of course, while they're navigating through, getting things situated at their facility, squaring up their contracts, and getting more physicians onto their property, then this should start to abate, and we'll see things kind of go back to a status quo. Questions on the IHS direct admits? Okay, we've got the surgery team is being tasked with doing some inpatient kind of survey tracers. So they are being given some handouts for tracers. Right now it's short. It's got like 10, 15 questions on there. So starting next week, they should start doing tracers through different departments throughout the hospital. So don't be surprised when you have a member of the surgery team randomly come up to you and ask you a question off of their tracer form. Please make sure that you engage when they come through. This is, intended to be a kind of a practice run to simulate as much as possible what it's going to really be like when the surveyors come through and are pinning staff up against the wall and asking questions of them. So use this as an opportunity to practice your conversational skills, practice your knowledge of where things are in the department, and what to do if you don't know the answer to something. And that actually is one of the questions that they have on the survey tracers, to get people ready to go by asking them those questions. Let me see what I got here. Who do we all have on here now? So, Sayrina, if I asked you where to find the gas shutoff valves in the department, how would you answer that question?
It's on the wall.
Okay. And if I asked you for the process involved in utilizing the gas shutoff valves, how would you answer that question?
Get engineering.
Okay, that is the correct answer both times. So let's see, Tammy, if I asked you to identify.
I'm brushing my teeth.
Your what?
Brushing my teeth, sorry.
Brushing your teeth? Okay. Becca, if I asked you to identify the process involved in a code pink, what would you say?
Sorry, I'm driving. And I just literally woke up. But if I don't know the answer, I would just say I'm not sure about the answer right now, but I can find out.
Perfect.
The policies are at the med surg station, at the nurses station.
So since we brought up code pink, just for those of you that aren't aware, this is something that there's that little like tab on our badge. Let me see if I've got it on mine. I think it's on the back of our old ones.
It's a baby alert, right? Missing baby.
That's correct. So the code pink is the child abduction. And the key thing to remember in a child abduction scenario, we effectively as a team, as a department, and every department in the hospital pretty much has the same job, which is we want to station a human, a member of the team, at every entrance and exit to the hospital to effectively screen any and all persons that are attempting to exit. And on the exit note, no one's allowed to leave. Right now, I'm not saying that you need to take your belt off and use it as a defensive weapon or grab an IV pole and start smacking people if they try to exit the building, right? But if someone is trying to forcefully leave past you, it's an opportunity for you to get as much descriptive information as you can as far as tattoos, haircut, eye color, height, weight, build, last worn clothing, gender, skin color, you name it. The more descriptive detail that you can get off of the person that's pushing past you to exit the building, the better, right? I'm not expecting you to tackle somebody and, you know, risk your life potentially in one of these scenarios, but it is an opportunity for you to catalog as much information as you can about that person as they are trying to forcefully exit the building. So again, code pink situation, we hear that come on overhead. We're stationing a person at every entrance and exit of the building. So for example, in this conference room, there's that little side exit door. So we would want someone stationed there. There's that side exit that a lot of our staff uses to get in and out of the building from the parking lot, right? We would want somebody staffed there. We would want somebody staffed by the ICU lobby doors, by the emergency exits in the med-surg department, by the emergency exit in the ICU, right? So we want to make sure that there is somebody readily standing and available to effectively screen any persons that are trying to exit the building. If they permit you to search them, you would search them. And if they're trying to forcefully push past you to try and get out, right, again, that's where you take the opportunity to try and mentally catalog as much information about that individual as you can as they're exiting the building. So on here, I have just a quick reference. We're selecting the east side of the hallway. So that's effectively the side of the building that the conference room is on, or the side of the building that River Health is on. So east side of the hallway is what we are designating as the side of the hallway to place any WOWs, vital signs machines, crash carts, extra tables. For the time being, if you have a patient that's on a precaution and you have that ISO cart outside the room, we want that on the opposite side of the hallway, things of that nature. So we want everything on that one side. Again, this is for life safety purposes. The whole point behind that is if you've got smoke in the corridor, and I don't expect many of you have been inside of a room that's filled with smoke, but it is impossible to see. However, if you crouch down to just below knee level, typically there's a little section down there where there's not necessarily penetration of smoke, so you can actually see, not that you can necessarily breathe, but more likely to be able to see, so that way if you are having to crawl effectively to exit the building, you know, a person's able to hug the wall and follow that wall. And we want to keep items to one side of the hallway, so that way, the whole point behind it is if you run into something, then you can go across the hallway, crawl across the hallway to the other wall and be able to continue to follow that until you get to effectively an exit door of some kind. So that's why we want to try to keep things on one side of the hallway, right? So that people aren't, you know, having to switch back and forth between which wall they're following if they're trying to crawl out of the building in the event of a fire. We've got upcoming capital requests. So this is effectively anything that is worth more than $1,000 to purchase for the single item, or a like construction project or other related projects. Anything that's in the excess of $1,000, we have to put on what's called capital request. So this last week we had Joe come through. We're looking at eliminating the shower that is down by the physician sleep lounge. We're looking at expanding one of the showers where we typically are giving patient showers, basically knocking out one of those bathrooms and extending that shower all the way down, so we actually have a nice large shower room. So that's another one of the capital requests we'll be looking at. We're looking at replacing all of the cabinetry in the ICU, moving that island desk, that's the kind of the island desktop or workstation that's there, out a couple of feet to give some more space behind that desk for people to walk around back there and navigate, as well as replacing all of the floors. They're also going to be putting formal cabinetry or shelving in that clean utility, that supply room that's there as well. So these are all capital request items, something that's in the excess of $1,000 for the purchase of the single item. And so capital requests can range everything from IV pumps to beds to recliners to vital signs machines, ultrasound machines, CT machines, anything that is going to be a exorbitant cost item is something we can put on capital requests. So the reason I have this on here is if you guys have ideas for capital request items, things that you would like to see us contemplate and consider for purchase going forwards, shoot it to me in an email, shoot it to me in a text message. Now, I'm always looking for things that we can add on to try and make the department better. We don't necessarily want to go about eliminating or changing things that are working and working well, right? So, for example, the telebox system that we have through Draeger is actually a fairly decent quality device. Now, the teleboxes themselves, you could argue, are not to mention the fact that they are old as well, right? So that's something that we could potentially consider for replacement. So just a couple of examples for you guys to think of additional ideas. Just because we put it on the list doesn't mean that it gets approved. But once we do the workup and we can get it added to the list, right, there's the potential we can get partial approval, right? So we might not be able to replace, say, all of the IV pumps, but maybe we're able to get 10, right? And start a slow transition over the next couple of years as we try and swap things out. And I bring the IV pumps up because we are meeting with the BD Alaris reps next week to talk about the potential of replacing our Baxter pumps with the BD Alaris pumps. So for those of you that don't know, the Alaris pumps, those are the ones that have the central brain, and then you can add up to 4 channels, 2 on each side. So we're going to be kind of taking a presentation from those guys, finding out a little bit more about their product, which it should integrate with our EHR and stuff like that. Figure out the pricing and then see what we can do about adding something like that onto our capital budget for this upcoming capital budget cycle. So if you guys got other ideas about things that we can add or change in the department, let me know. I'm always looking for stuff that we can make our jobs better, easier, faster, more efficient. More patient satisfaction, more staff satisfaction, you name it. We've got performance reviews are going to be opening up again here pretty soon. Just remember, going into the performance review season, remember there are 3 total performance reviews that are done. You have your own individual, followed by one done by one of your peers, and you need to select one of your peers to complete the peer review portion for you. And then you have the final one that is performed by me, which is a total of 3 performance reviews per employee. At this time, performance reviews are still not being utilized to determine how a person's raise right at the end of the year is impacted. But it is something that we're looking at. We actually just discussed this again during our department directors meeting yesterday. So it's definitely something that all of the clinical leadership thinks is a push or a movement that we need to do. And so effectively what that would look like is if you scored very highly across the board on your performance evaluation at the end of the year, then you would be eligible for the full quantity of increase, whatever that increase was determined to be. And if you scored extremely poorly, kind of all the way at the bottom of the rung, you would either not be considered for an increase, right? Or, you would potentially be considered for, only a partial increase, 0.5% or something to that effect. So your performance eval would actually be tied to the increase that you earn at the end of the year to actually give that performance eval some kind of meaning, purpose, function, right? So potentially some upcoming changes with that. Keep an eye out for these. Once they release, they'll land in your Paycom. Once you see them, jump on it, get in there, add in your own personal review. That way I can start knocking my portion out and pulling you guys in so we can go over them and get them accomplished. So doing 50 performance evals for the entire department does take me a little bit of time, but it's critical that I have your guys' portion complete first before I can meet with you so we can go over any discrepancies that we might have run into. Big changes, positive things coming out of the education department and in health stream going into this summer. So the education department, specifically Kara in the education department, works very closely with a 1803, 1804 grant program with the state. And the state actually visited us this last Monday, Tuesday. Can't remember which day. I think it was Tuesday. And they effectively just wanted to see how we were spending the money that they were giving us. And were we putting it to good use? Was it positively impacting the facility? And the last thing that they wanted to know more than anything was how much more money did we want and what would we use it for if we had it? So for example, some of the things that we're now seeing coming out of this 1804 program, they have added on opportunities for any staff member to earn their CMSRN, which is Certified Med-Surg Registered Nurse, their CEN, Certified Emergency Nurse, their CRN, which is Critical Care Registered Nurse. I believe there is one for the ARN. I don't know what the initialism is for that one. I'm asking about getting the WOCN added on as well, which is Wound Ostomy and Continence Nurse, which is effectively like a wound care nurse certification. All of these are nationally recognized certs. So whether you continue to work here or you went to work at another facility, it would be an excellent thing to make sure that you added onto your resume and kept on your resume. It ultimately leads to a multiple question test, very NCLEX similar style with a time limit, earning you effectively a certification in that area of expertise. So if this is something that you guys are interested in pursuing, I encourage you, please reach out to Akara in the education department. She can provide you with the information that potentially would be needed for you to get signed up, to get involved in they are effectively preparatory courses that they have that kind of prep you to take the exam. And she can get you the information. So if you're interested, you can get signed up. Beyond that, there is additional money that we have asked for. We'll see if it gets approved by the state or not. They're getting ready to go into their next kind of capital budget cycle. And what we asked for is for funds for what's called upskilling. So as you guys know, during the summertime, patient census goes down, patient acuity goes down, right? We're not getting as many opportunities to kind of test our mettle and our training skills against the patients that we're taking care of at the hospital. And so what the state has said that they're going to try to get funding for is what's called an upskill program, where we would identify individuals across the hospital that we would take out of their departments, send to another hospital for training in a specific department or unit. And the state would effectively pay for all of the costs associated with this via the grant money. We would be looking at probably somewhere between 4 and 8 week assignments, where that person would be going and working at, say a Banner facility in Phoenix, could be Havasu, could be Yuma. It depends on who ends up becoming partners in such a program. That person goes to that facility for several weeks, works in even a med-surg unit, say in a Banner hospital where the patient acuity is going to be much higher than what we typically see out here. And the entire intent of this program is to gain additional skills for those staff. So this is potentially something that we see coming around the bend as part of that grant program. So just more good things that are coming out of how the state is investing their money into, the rural health system across the state, to try and, help us out, increase our skills, make sure that we have the, highest trained, most competent professionals that we can, even out here in the boondocks, right? Health stream component. I have the critical care nurse program packaged into a group. I am waiting for Laura Leroy is actually out in Tennessee meeting with HealthStream this week, getting some training done. When she comes back, I've asked her to get not only that program assigned for every nurse in the department, but also there is a wound care health stream that I want everybody to go through as well. We've got some kind of awkward situation changes that I'm sure you guys are well aware of with, Sai's not being in the building much of late, right? Which as a consequence means that we don't have a wound care specialist on site, right? But we're still going to have patients that come through our facility that have wounds. And so I want to make sure that you guys have the best possible training, right? So yes, is this didactic coursework specific? Is it have any hands-on components? No, it's very audio visual. Some of you will find it very beneficial. There's those of you out there that have those learning skills where you can watch a shoulder reduction on a YouTube video and you could probably pull it off just fine. There's others of you that would watch the same video and cause an absolute fracture in that patient's arm if you tried to attempt it right afterwards, right? Just because your ability to learn off of that type of content just doesn't suit you. So we're looking at bringing a couple of different angles for wound care education for the staff. This is just one of those angles that we're approaching it from. Again, this is another opportunity education-wise to earn some additional hours if you're on call during the summertime to try and increase your skills. We're still looking at being able to partner with either MCC or ASU to utilize their skills lab. This is something that's still in the works. I'm giving a little bit of pressure on the education department to see what we can explore in the realms for that. Because I'd like to see if we can't get some groups put together, be able to send some staff over to either the MCC campus or once our metal building is done, if ASU moves their skills lab down here, to get staff over to that building to knock out some skills over in that building on the simulation lab stuff. So just trying to explore some different opportunities for the staff through the summer. Cross training, right? If there is going to be, additional staff that are going to be on a day, there's potential for them to go on call. You're interested in rotating through, say, the surgery department or the ER, or maybe even you want an opportunity to rotate through case management and shadow Skylar for a couple of shifts and see what's going on over there. Maybe you want to have an opportunity to shadow our infection preventionist and see what it's about, right? Perhaps you want to check things out in the cardiac rehab area. There's an excellent opportunity there as well. Spend some time over with Tracy figuring out what is it exactly that we do in cardiac rehab? How does that tie into our med-surg department in our cath lab, right? So please, if there's areas of interest for you in the hospital, let me know. I'm more than happy to set up opportunities for you to rotate through other departments, get you an opportunity to brush up on some skills that you maybe didn't have before, get some exposure, things of that nature. Always looking for these opportunities to expand our skills and explore different things. Any questions so far? All right, we are going to move into glucometer checks. So the glucometer has a QC that has to be performed at certain times each day, and I cannot recall what exact time off the top of my head, but I believe it's twice a day. So I've done some education with our team leads. They are going to be double checking this, but for our primarily whoever is on for our ward clerk on days and for nights. I want you guys to be on top of making sure that these glucometers are ready to go. At least the ones that are in med surge. For our ICU nurses, I'm going to make you guys responsible for making sure your glucometer is ready to go. Okay, if we have a patient back in ICU, the ICU nurse is going to be responsible for that glucometer. But our ward clerks, I want you guys to be on top of making sure that those glucometers are checked, QC'd, we have enough supplies, and that they're ready to go. And then our charge nurses will be double checking that as part of their morning rounds as they come back through. So the purpose here is not to try and pin it down and say, hey, any one person is busted for not checking it, right? The important thing is that it's checked, it's ready to go, and that way we can perform the POC glucose check, particularly in an emergent situation when we need to. Cheryl.
When we got in last night, it said it was supposed to be done by 6:10 this morning, and I did it around, I'd say somewhere around 5:30. So I'd be interested in knowing like when day shift is supposed to have it, what it's registering is what day shift is supposed to do, what time. Does that make sense?
So
It
it
should
said
be. Go ahead.
it said it required the QC at 6:10 in the morning.
Correct.
That's such a, I mean, at least it's on a 0.
Yeah, it used to be 6:30. Now it's saying 6:10. So I don't know if it's retiming itself based on when it was
When the
last
checks,
done. Yeah. So that's why I was giving you that information. So I didn't think to tell Marco, but I did it around somewhere between 5 and 5:30, and it was telling us at 8:10 last night it had to be done in 10 hours, which would be
okay.
6:10.
Okay. So
For med surge and ICU, it's 6 a.m. For the surgery department, it is 7 a.m.
that's when it locks
That's
out.
the QC, correct? It's 6 a.m. for med surge. That's per GG.
So the key thing here, guys, is, you know, same as we do our room checks, right? Or when we do our initial introduction to a patient in the morning, right? We pop in that room, we're taking a glance around. Do I have suction? Do I have an ambu bag? Does the patient have oxygen on? Is it plugged into the oxygen? What's the status of their IV? Is their arm blowing up like a balloon, or, you know, is their IV leaking? Is there blood everywhere? You know, is the patient resting comfortably? Do they look like they're breathing hard? You know, just all of these types of kind of basic assessments when we walk in, and we're making sure that everything is ready to go. I call it warding off evil spirits, right? The more that you prepare for the worst case scenario, seemingly the less likely it's going to happen, right? It's like grabbing the crash cart and wheeling it down to place outside of a patient that's, you know, getting soft blood pressure, or their heart rate's starting to do wonky things, right? So you take that crash cart, you put it down outside that room to, quote, ward off evil spirits, right? But in reality, what it is that you're doing is you're getting ready, right? So that way, when you need to pull the trigger and you know, initiate resuscitation efforts or initiate rapid response efforts, that you have everything that you need at your fingertips, right? It would be like walking around as a cop in downtown New York or LA or Chicago, walking a beat on the street with no bullets in your gun, right? You know, you're not ready. You know, you forgot to put your vest on that day. You don't have any bullets in your gun. You haven't cleaned your gun in, you know, 14 weeks, so you're not sure if it's going to jam or not. All of your bullets are in a box in the car, right? You know, that's 3 miles away from you because you're walking down the street now. You've got, you know, one shoe tied, the other one's not. Your uniform's untucked on one side. You're not sure if your handcuffs work, right? Your radio might be spotty. You know, okay, you see the kind of trend here. You're putting yourself at an increasing likelihood of, you know, things going bad, right? And if we are always in a position prepared, prepared for the worst case scenario. One, it seemingly wards off the evil spirits, or at least it would seem like, right? And two, if something bad does happen, then you've got everything ready to go at your fingertips, right? So that you're not having to scramble at the last minute trying to jump over somebody to fix the suction, or jump over somebody to, you know, run out real fast and grab pads for the crash cart because it just doesn't have any on it, right? So it's always trying to be that one step ahead at all times so that you're ready to go for the worst case scenario, right? And that includes the POC glucose checks. How often can I say that I've ran into a scenario where glucose was the determining factor that, you know, saved a patient's life? Maybe like on one hand, I could count the number of times, right? But still, that's enough. It's still enough, right? Being able to get that glucose right away, determining that their glucose is less than 30. Okay, we need to push some, you know, D50 on this patient, and bam, as soon as you push that D50, wham, they come right back, right? So it's having all of these things ready to go just makes sense. It just makes sense. And it's easy to fall into patterns of complacency, right? It's easy to fall into patterns of complacency. But unfortunately, complacency can kill, right? So ward clerks, please, when you start your shift, make that one of your checks. You guys are wiping down your station, getting everything turned over, taking report from the off-going ward clerk, handing out radios, double checking your tele monitors to make sure everything's working. Pop over there, check those glucometers, make sure that you don't have a control lockout. If you do, run the test real fast. It takes less than 2 minutes on each machine, right? Get that done so that way we can, you know, have those ready to go in the event that we have a, you know, glucose emergency in the department. So who do we have here? Okay. Courtney, if you're walking down the hallway and you see water coming up out of the drain in the middle of the hallway, what do?
Out of a drain.
Yeah, so
I
they've
would-
got those little bins that are in the middle of the floor.
Yeah,
I've had this happen a couple times actually. So now you've got like sewage or water coming up. What do?
I would see if anybody's around for help.
Okay,
If I walk away, it's some.
you can walk away. I mean, that's fine to do. Who would you let? Who would you let know?
I would let the if anybody is around, I would ask for help, either someone to stand there so I can go get assistance, something to clean up the water,
Okay,
go tell a charge.
okay. So if there is no charge and you're the only person there and you needed to pick up the phone and call somebody, who would you call?
I would call, what are they called? Maintenance. I would call
Yep,
maintenance.
Perfect. That's perfect. All right. Say, Rena, if you come into work, you're getting ready to use a WOW, and you notice that you're having issues connecting to the internet. What do?
If I was having internet issues or computer issues, I'd probably call IT.
Okay. So one of the things that I want you guys to keep in mind is that not only do you want to call these departments on the phone when you're having issues, but you also always want to make sure that you're placing a help desk ticket. Okay. So the help desk tickets help these departments to track these issues and to make sure that we have a log, right, of when the issue has occurred, that we have entered effectively something into the log to file for that complaint, right? So definitely you still want to make your phone call, but you always want to follow up. Make sure you drop that help desk ticket in. Let's see. Yes, ma'am.
How do we put a help desk ticket in? Could you walk us through?
Good question. And because we have screen share, I can actually show you. So on every single computer on the desktop, there is this, everybody see this okay? This little box that I'm drawing here, this little help guy
Yes.
right here. Okay, so this is your help desk. Okay, this is where we put in help desk tickets. Okay, just a couple of other things. Everybody knows this is how we get into Meditech. This is how we get into MedPower training. This is how we get into HealthStream. If you ever need your material safety and data sheets, which is effectively, oh my God, I spilled a chemical on the floor and, you know, it's creating gas, you know, you know, I need to know some information about what this chemical is and what it could potentially do to my eyes or my face or my ears or my mouth, or I drank something weird, right? Material safety and data sheets are here, okay? So this is all of your information on the toxicity of the different cleaning substances and whatnot that we have in the hospital, okay? This guy right here. So kind of the key ones that we're looking at here is we've got MedPower, Meditech Live, HealthStream, our materials data sheets, and then our help desk. So every desktop has the help desk button on it. We open this guy up, it's going to take us to this login screen, which is where we're going to log in with our standard login information that we use to log into any machine. Okay, once we get in here, if there's something that we have encountered a problem with, such as, you know, the WOW's not charging, or there's a telebox that's gone bananas, or there's a vital signs machine that's on the fritz and it, you know, it's reporting SpO2s of 1000%, or, you know, anything of that nature, we're going to say, I'm facing an issue, report an issue here. If there's something that you are doing that you're trying to add to the department, right, something new that you're trying to accomplish, let's say, you know, you're wanting to, you know, get a new television installed in a new space in the department or something like that, you would use this I need something new. Or let's say there's a part of Meditech that you weren't able to access before, but you're going to be training in surgery this week and you'd like to be able to have access to the surgery side of things. You would go to this I need something new. This is where you would request those types of things. So for this instance, the key thing is I'm facing an issue, I have a problem. We're going to go in here. We have three options, okay? We have EVS, we have IT, we have maintenance, okay? EVS is going to cover anything that goes above and beyond the standard EVS requests that we could have, right? So I would think of this like this. If, let's say you're rounding through the department and you go into the clean utility, the clean supply room, and you grab some supplies out of one of the buckets, you drop something on the ground, you reach down, you're all the way down, you're looking underneath, and you're like, oh my God, there's dust bunnies galore underneath here, right? You can drop in an EVS ticket, right, for that kind of thing, okay? If you're able to grab the EVS personnel and let them know, that works just as well, right? But if we want to keep a log, especially if it's something that's off the beaten path from what we would typically request from EVS, right? So, you know, typical requests would be replacing toilet paper, replacing paper towels, cleaning something in a room, mopping the floor, you know, things of that nature. If it's something that's off the beaten path, like pulling the carts back and dusting underneath, or maybe there's a fixture that's up really high that you want them to dust off or something, that's where you would drop in that request is under EVS. IT is going to cover anything that's IT related, so Meditech, like if you're having trouble logging in, or WOWs, any computer, internet problems, and then it also covers any equipment that we use that touches a patient, so vital signs machines, IV pumps, teleboxes, defibrillators, you name it, anything that we use that's a piece of equipment that touches a patient or any technological device, we're going to place an IT ticket for. And then anything that's, plant operations maintenance related. So this would be like, there's a window that is, this most recent little Haboob situation we had several windows in the 40s that were, leaking air and dust was coming through from the Haboob, right? Or the recent rainstorm that we had ceiling tiles that are leaking. Okay, so those types of things are going to go into your maintenance plant operations. So when you get in here, let's say we're having an issue with a WOW, right? Or let's say we're having issues with the internet on the computer that we're working on. We go in here, it's going to pop up kind of a pre-filled thing for us to fill out. You can change the priority level. So, if the internet's out for the entire department, you could change that to a high priority. You can change your subject line to make it more specific to the issue. And then in your description line, you want to be as specific as possible about what it is that you're inputting for the ticket. And then you place your name down here at the bottom. Now, the one thing that I ask that you do is let's say we're filling one of these out and we are placing a request for, say, like a vital signs machine or a bed that's broken, right? Once we place this request, we can then print the screen with that request on it. So let's just go in here. I'm going to say computer, and we're just going to say this is a test for the inpatient meeting today. Only. Okay. And we'll add that request. That's going to go into the IT work list, and then we can print this screen. And right here. And so if you're placing a request in, let's say to fix a vital signs machine, what I ask that you guys do is once you have entered the request, print this screen, take that printout, go and tape it to the actual device that's broken. This is just an easy way for us to track on those items themselves. We also have the yellow tags that I would like you guys to use. Those are in the drawer that's behind the ward clerk at the ward clerk station for you to tag that item as broken. Questions about the help desk process? When it comes to issues with Meditech or with the Pyxis, right? So, who have I not picked on yet? Let's go Tammy. And this is kind of unfair because you were just part of this, I think, too. You go to pull a medication out of the Pyxis, you're looking it up by the generic name, you can't find it. What do?
You have to put it in under the other name.
Okay. And then once you've gotten what you need, you've been able to attend to the patient, right? What do you do next?
Talk to pharmacy to see if they can fix that.
Okay. Or let's say, John, you're going to go into the Pyxis to pull a medication out and, for whatever reason, it's grayed out or you can't access it and it's in there, it's supposed to be accessible, but you just can't get it, right? You find another way, to override or something like that to get the medication, but, obviously the issue still remains. What do we do in that instance?
Anytime you override a medication, you have to put an incident ticket in to notify pharmacy of the override, why you override the medication.
And then, obviously we're wanting to notify them too, right? So like, hey, I had an order in, the med was in the Pyxis for whatever reason, it's grayed out or, describing the issue, right? That way pharmacy can mitigate that issue going forward. So we had a recent issue where a patient in the department seized The staff was trying to pull Ativan to administer to the patient to abate the seizure. They were unable to pull the Ativan by looking it up under Ativan. The staff then found out that by looking it up under lorazepam, they were then able to pull the medication. So just one example of, you know, some small issues that we can run into that can turn into big issues in the moment, right? But we want to be able to get those fixed going forward. So the key thing is that when you run into that kind of stuff, whether it's on the Pyxis or on Meditech, you just want to make sure that it's packaged up and handed off to somebody, whether it's sent via email. In fact, that's the most preferred form of communication, right? To fire off an email with a description of what that issue is. You know, if it's Pyxis related, make sure you include myself and Omar. If it's Meditech related, you can just pop it over my direction. That's fine. That way I've got the more detail, the better, right? The more descriptive you are about what exactly happened, the easier it is for me to figure out how to fix the problem going forwards. All right, we're gonna rapid fire through this last section. We've got some new surface cleaning wipes that we're trialing. So there's a Medline brand, and then there's a Cavi wipe brand. The reason we're doing this is because the current Cavi wipes that we have are a 3-minute dwell time. So once you wipe down the surface, you technically have to wait 3 minutes until you can place anything on that surface. The new wipes that we are trialing are 1-minute dwell time. So that means you wipe down the surface, and then 60 seconds later, it's good to go for you to place stuff on. It's now considered, you know, sterilized or clean. Well, clean, not sterilized. So you're going to see these wipes in the department. We have the product kind of test forms. So if you use one of these, grab one of the product test forms, get it filled out. You can turn it into my box. That way we can keep track of what people think about these new products. We've got basically 2 different testers, the Medline brand and then the Cavi wipe brand that they're going to be bringing in for comparison. So the more information we can provide on these, the better. We basically want to make sure that, you know, if the Medline product's cheaper than the Cavi wipe, the Medline product is cheaper than the Cavi wipe product. Just because it's cheaper doesn't mean it's better. Just because the other one's more expensive doesn't mean it's better, right? So we want to try and have as objective of an assessment of the quality of these wipes as possible. So when you guys use them, you know, evaluate how well did it do the job to clean what you needed to clean. You know, was it just smearing stuff around? Was there, you know, as soon as you opened it, it's dry in like 2 seconds, and so it's basically useless. You know, you go to pull the wipe out and you get just like this little teeny tiny cloth to wipe with, and there's just not enough there, so you got to grab like 8 of them in order to do the job. These types of things I want you guys thinking of. You know, think of like when you buy, you know, the shit brand of paper towels at the grocery store versus, you know, the higher quality brand. You go to wipe off a surface, and, you know, the shit brand, it takes like 8 paper towels, you know, to wipe it down versus, you know, you buy something that's got a little bit of quality and it actually works well, you know, or, you know, single ply toilet paper versus, you know, anything else, right? So just something to keep an eye out for. The forms are located right next to the actual wipes, which are kept at the nurse's station right now. So if you use one, fill one of those out, drop it in my box, please. We're going to skip what should be in a room. We'll come back around to that later. Just general department cleanliness and readiness. There's always stuff that can be done in-house. So always be on the lookout on double checking the rooms, making sure that everything is set up the way that it's supposed to be set up. And once a room is clean, the door should be closed. Care plans. We've got Sunshine running around doing education on care plans. If you haven't had an opportunity to get educated on care plans, please be on the lookout. Grab Sunshine, have her show you how to get to care plans, what are the expectations for what needs to be added. I've effectively instructed her to be like a bulldog, to grasp on to everybody and provide as much education on this as possible. Once you have knowledge of care plans, if there's somebody else in the department that you know hasn't had a chance to be educated on them, grab them, teach them. This is one of those situations where, you know, see one, do one, teach one definitely applies. It's very easy to get into the care plan area. It's very easy to add the care plans. The actual documentation is not that difficult either. So once you've got this down, please share with your teammates. And the last item, the lockbox that we're going to be placing in the patient rooms for patient-specific medications. So that's eye drops, ointments, patients' home meds, things of that nature. This is around the corner. They have been ordered. Plan Ops has come through and recognized that we are going to be able to place these in the room. So we've got physical locations mapped out. We're just waiting for them to come in. It's supposed to be sometime end of June, beginning of July that we're supposed to get our shipment. And then we'll start getting these installed in the rooms. Of course, at that time, we'll do education with you guys on how to use them, how to get them locked up, what you should and shouldn't be putting in there for your patients. So open floor. Anybody have anything that they would like to discuss before we go to the weekend?
Have we made a determination on the IV catheters that we were trialing?
What we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up purchasing, for the most part, the Nexivas, and we're still going to purchase some of the standard version, and that's specifically per request of the anesthesiologists or the CRNAs that we have for our surgical patients. The last thing that I have to do, they've got a product committee that's coming up that we actually have to do a presentation on the IVs to the product committee to get them formally approved. We've got all the survey data that we need collected. We've got all of the feedback that we need from the staff to support purchasing these products. I just have to get it greenlit through the product committee, which is, I want to say sometime next week is when we're getting together for that. And once we get through the product committee meeting, then we'll work on getting them ordered as long as everything gets approved, which I'm confident that we have more than enough information to support purchasing the products. So. Other questions, anybody? All right, I have 9:02. Enjoy your weekend. Anything that you guys haven't heard from me so far yet or questions that you may have, feel free to hit me up offline. Take care.
Thank you.